points of the 2014 GP2 series season are about to be given away. It is the first qualifying session of this, the 10th season of Formula One's premier feeder series. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Bahrain International Circuit. Will Buxton with you as always. And what a fascinating and incredibly closely contested practice session we saw. First thing this morning at the Bahrain International Circuit, it was Mitch Evans who led the way for Russian time on a 1:42.062, and thereafter there were 19 drivers within a second. Leading that charge were the rookies, Stoffel van Dorn for ART Grand Prix and Raffaele Marciello for Racing Engineering, second and third. Then Daniel Abt, who has moved from ART to Hilmer Motorsport, which now fronts itself as the junior team for the Force India F1 team. He was in fourth. Stefan Rakelny was fifth in the Dams. Then Rio Haryanto for Caterham, sixth. Then Negrão at Arden, Palmer at Dams, Trummer at Rapax, and Connor Daly at Venezuela GP Lazarus rounding out the top 10. As we said, 19 drivers within a second of Evans' session-topping time of 1:42.062. That was on a very dusty, very dirty, very slippery track. We're normally used to Formula One having a practice session before the GP2 cars go out. Not so today. The first cars of the weekend to hit the track were the GP2 cars, and they didn't have an easy time of it. Because the old rear brake, there is a different material on the inside, sandwiching, sort of a sandwich effect on those rear brakes. Now, what it meant for a lot of the drivers, or for all the drivers actually, and for the teams, was that they went into the session unsure on brake balance. It's why we saw so much rear locking during that practice session, particularly at the top of the hill. The other thing affecting the drivers, wind. Massive wind around the circuit. Headwind at one part of the track, tailwind at another part of the track, catching the drivers out again, particularly through that sweeper coming up through the hill, up to the top. We saw the drivers twitching and then getting caught out with the rear. So two effects there. Obviously, a very dirty, very dusty track causing understeer. Then new brakes at the rear of the car causing instability through the brake bars not quite being as the drivers would like, and then the wind as well. So all of those things compacting together to create times which weren't quite where we'd expected them to be after testing. The drivers running 1:39s in testing, just 1:42s this morning. And a huge learning curve for all the teams and all the drivers with those new brakes. But we had a 45-minute session. Hopefully the teams and the drivers are a little bit more au fait with these new brakes now. And it will be interesting to see who starts this session on the soft tyre and who starts it on the hard. I can't imagine anybody going out and trying to run qualifying on the hard. There is Kimiya Sato, rookie for Campos. And it's worth mentioning, if you haven't noticed already, the lights are on. We are at night, and the folks here at the Bahrain International Circuit have done a tremendous job of not just lighting the track, but also the hillsides and the barriers and everything around the track, because we are in the middle of a desert. There's not that much to see, and if you take Qatar as a really good example, you can't see anything beyond the barriers when you see MotoGP races there. Here, I think Bahrain have done an outstanding job to make this track look beautiful at night and under the lights. There, the famous tower down at turn 1, and those huge light gantries around the track. A little oasis in the middle of the circuit, and the palm trees lit up with fairy lights. It really does look glorious here as GP2 gets ready. It won't be the first time these guys have qualified at night. They have, of course, qualified in Abu Dhabi over the years at night. In Singapore as well, I seem to recall qualifying was at night. Probably wrong. But first time here in Bahrain. Stefano Coletti changed teams this year. He now finds himself at Racing Engineering alongside Lello Marciello. And we now have a green light. We now have the start of the session, and it is Alexander Rossi in the Caterham who leads the field out of the pit lane. Rossi, who found himself 17th and off the pace. I will say off the pace. I mean, he was, what, 0.89 off this morning. Everybody getting used to those brakes, and what was a very slippery, very understeery track. Now, most drivers are going to want to try and get out and be on the same lap as the leaders, because if you find yourself out of sequence in qualifying and having to move over, let's not forget we now have a lot of tyre debris on track, and moving offline to let a faster driver through will result in you picking up dirt on your tyres. That doesn't just take a moment to get rid of. That can take up to 3 laps to get rid of. So your qualifying chances are pretty much shot as soon as you have to move offline, unless you jump in the pits and take on a fresh set of boots. So there, Marcello, but leading the field around is Alexander Rossi. Rossi, who was telling me earlier this weekend he has never had a car that he feels as confident with, that he enjoys driving as much as this GP2 car. The changes made to the Caterham team over the winter have provided him with a car in which he has massive confidence. Felipe Nasr, not here to make up the numbers, here to compete, here to win, and here to win the title. Got his first Formula 1 run out this morning in practice for the Williams F1 team. Now has to relearn his braking points for GP2 in qualifying. So Rossi winds it up. And let's see, with these new Pirelli tyres, whether drivers can push on their first flyer, as we saw in practice, or whether they will still be weaving. Rossi's still weaving. So we are still in the same situation we were in last year, where the first flyer is not a flyer. It is still warming the tyres up. And look how low Rossi is running to the ground. And the Carlins as well. And the Ardens. Interesting to see how low those guys are running. The sparks kicking out the back of the car down the start-finish straight. Not all of them were sparking like that. Oh, and look at all the weaving. The Arden getting caught up behind the Carlin. I can't see who that is from behind. I think it was the black camera, which would make it Rene Binder trying to get through and past the slow weaving drivers ahead. Yeah, right up underneath Julian Leal, trying to get through, because look, Cecotto is holding a massive train of weaving cars behind. Nasr has tried to get through and has been balked on a couple of... And now he makes the move. Now Nasr jumps past, and Cecotto tries to edge him, tries to stay ahead, and now swings back behind, weaving luridly across the track. And a spinner already, and that's Axel Jeffries on his GP2 debut this weekend. First driver from Zimbabwe to compete in GP2. Now Rossi really is winding it up, and there is Nasr behind, and Cecotto has dropped right back out of the picture now. Rossi focuses, channels his thoughts. We'll put it through the final corner, and we'll get going in that beautiful new livery on the Caterham. It really is a stunning livery, both in the flesh and under the lights. Riding on board now with the Californian. Down the start-finish straight, and Alexander Rossi starts his first flyer of 2014 at a track where he made his full GP2 Series debut last year and took a podium in the process. Whoa, massive catch from Rossi there. Let's see his time through Sector 1. I'm sure he has tested the structural integrity of his underpants with that little moment. But Rossi continues. And it's a 32.0 through Sector 1 for the American. Nasr 31.9 through there, so Rossi has lost a tenth or so with the car stepping out on him, but beautifully controlled. Missed the apex a little bit there, and perhaps a little late on application of throttle on exit. But it's composed through the left-hander, not even a hint of a lock-up from Rossi. Down the back stretch now, let's have a look through here. He locked up into this left-hander in practice, but that's done nicely. Now coming up the hill, let's have a look for the twitches we saw, and look at the sparks really running low, that Caterham. Beautiful, lovely control under brake, and that car is looking fantastic for Alexander Rossi. All of these drivers have tested at this track over the winter, they know it well. But this will be a good marker for Alexander Rossi. It'll be close between himself and Felipe Nasr. Over the line then, Rossi sets a benchmark time of a 1:39.7. Nasr immediately places it at 1:39.4. Riquelme a 1:39.6. Coming across, Cecotto goes fourth, Berton fifth. Palmer now up to second. Leal goes fifth, which drops Rossi into fourth place. So it's Nasr leading on a 1:39.416, and his teammate from last year, this man who's moved across to Dams, Jolyon Palmer, now sits second on a 1:39.541. But this man, Stoffel Vandoorne, has just gone quickest through sector 1 with a 31.7. The man who finished second in last year's World Series by Renault is 2/10 to the good through sector 1. Very, very nice from Stoffel Vandoorne. Oh, listen to that. Almost flat through the right-hander. And he's 4/10 up after 2 sectors. Oh, this is brilliant stuff from Vandoorne. Just ahead of us is Mitch Evans as well. Sorry, just behind us is Mitch Evans. Vandoorne comes through the final corner. Oh, almost a second bite, and he's run wide through the final corner. Stoffel Vandoorne was 4/10 up. How much has he lost through there? Over the line, Vandoorne goes top, but not by much. Evans across, and Evans goes top. Now that, I am sure, would have been Stoffel Vandoorne's without that running wide through the final corner, because Evans has gained 4/10 through that final corner on Vandoorne. So it's Evans who led practice in P1, Vandoorne who was second in practice P2, but it could, and arguably it should, have been the other way around. Here's a little look at Vandoorne. He has to take 2 bites at this corner. Look, turns in once, and then a little nick, and then runs wide. All the while, Mitch Evans just keeping it precise to take that P1 spot. Simon Trummer, meanwhile, a couple of tenths off through sector 1, not bad through sector 2. This could put Trummer into the mix. Connor Daly jumps into the pits. Trummer across the line and into P. Ooh, only 18. Yeah, not a great final sector, at least 6/10 down. Big lock up into turn 1. I think for the Arden there. Now back on board with Rossi, who's done a 31.7 sector 1. That is on a par with Stoffel Vandoorne. So without that mistake through sector 1, Rossi is absolutely charging. Felipe Nasr, though, has done a 31.7, marginally better than Rossi. Big luck up at the front left from the American. .31.7 also through there for Julian Leal and for Arthur Peak. Also improvements for Binder, for Negrão, for Riquelme, and for Palmer through sector 1. 31.5 for Daniel Abt through sector 1. We keep with Rossi, though. He's a 10th up so far as Nasr loses time through sector 2. Keep it tidy, Alexander. Keep it off those curbs. Now down, just the final corner left to go for Alexander Rossi. The ART moves out of his way. Rossi turns in. It's beautiful from Alexander through that final corner. Rossi to take P1 away from Mitch Evans. A 39.3 is what he needs. Over the line for Rossi, it's a 39.6. Rossi stays where he is. Nasr moves up to 3rd. Palmer is 4th. And that lockup didn't harm him too much. It looked very dramatic, but it wasn't so bad. What about Daniel Abt? Here he is in the Force India sponsored Hill McCart. Daniel Abt, fastest of all through sector 1. Beautiful through sector 2, perhaps a 10th or so off where he needed to be. Let's see where he is through sector 3, though. Daniel Abt, fast through so much of winter testing. 39.3 to beat. Over the line is a 39.0. Daniel Abt to the top of the timesheets, takes P1 away from Mitch Evans. It is Abt from Evans, from Vandoorne, Nasr 4th, Palmer 5th, then Leal, Riquelme, Marcello is 8th, Rossi is 9th, and Coletti is P10. What about Rio Haryanto, fastest over winter testing? for the Caterham team. And on this lap, Rio Haryanto, personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2, each one a 10th down from Daniel Abt. Should move him up the order though, over the line for Haryanto in its 6th place, 139.448. Van Dorn improves his lap time, but and goes ahead of Evans, so Van Dorn moves into 2nd. Markelov luck up of the front left and runs deep in the Russian time car. As Haryanto's 6th, Marcello improves now to 7th. Good through sector 1 with a 31.7 is John Lancaster. We pick him up. Needs not to lock the front left now. Tidy stuff from Lancaster. Slower cars ahead. Regalia, Coletti, De Jong. Regalia moves offline, allows Lancaster through. Coming up through the hill, and I can tell you that Stoffel Van Dorn is under investigation for exceeding track limits at turn 14. Lancaster's lost 4/10 through sector 2, but it is still an improvement for him. Personal best through that sector. Coletti lining up to start a flyer. No, he's not. They're both coming in fact. And Regalia comes in as well. And Lancaster decides to abort that flying lap. That is Regalia. P15 at the moment. I said during practice he had question marks over his engine. Turned out in testing, the problem with his engine was just a tear-off strip that had got into the air intake and was cutting down power at top end. Chrome so confident they said that they would like to put an engine on the dyno and throw a tear-off in just to see if the same drop-off happened. They're that confident that's what it was. But it is Abt in the Hilmer that leads. It is Van Dorn that is 2nd, but is under investigation for exceeding track limits at turn 14. Mitch Evans was leading, just as he was in practice, has dropped to P3. Felipe Nasr is P4, then it is Jolyon Palmer, then it is Haryanto, Marcello, Leal, Richelme, Rossi, the top 10, as Abt gets the go from the FIA, having been in on the weighbridge after that brilliant lap that took him to P1. And what a turnaround it would be for Daniel Abt after that disappointing season last year, where so much misfortune came his way in the ART. He questioned himself, he questioned his abilities, and I'm sure so many other people did, but he held that core belief deep down inside him, knew ultimately that it couldn't be him. And all winter through testing, he has topped so many days in preparation for this season, building that confidence back up inside the cockpit. There's a fresh set of boots. Goes on to Stefano Coletti's car. Coletti, who needs a huge turnaround this year, was the championship favourite, early leader, made such an impression and threw it all away. Abt. There is a look of fervent desire in those eyes. An intensity. Get me back out on track. The car feels good, I feel good, no one's out there, get me out, it says. Nasr sits and waits, cool and calm, just waiting for his moment. Johnny Cecotto in the Trident. Cecotto right now down in P13, one place ahead of Connor Daly. And in this session, once again, 19 drivers thus far, within a second of P1 time. Daniel App's 1:39.073. Plays de Jong's time 1 minute 40.060. Turn 14 incident involving car 10 will be investigated after the session for track limits. So that is Van Dorn. They will discuss with the driver. So for now, Van Dorn's P2 remains very provisional. Everyone in the pits. I've always thought this is the optimum time to get out on track and set your qualifying laps. While everyone else is sitting there waiting for the final part. There you go. Now's the time to go out, because while everyone's sitting in the pits waiting, you've got a track that's not being used. Chances are when you get... Oh, no, he's not. He's just leaving the FIA weighbridge. Well, that's a shame. Because, as I was saying, you know, everyone's sitting there, biding their time. They're going to wait for the last 8 minutes, and in that last 8 minutes, the track will be full of 26 cars. Right now, there's nobody. Track conditions aren't going to change that much, other than the track being full of other cars. That's just me, though. That's what I would do. Rossi tried it last year a few times and actually made some really big advances in his lap time. At one point was looking like he was going to nick pole by going out in the middle of the session, and only through over-pushing and making a mistake did he lose out on that. In fact, I believe it was here last year that he tried it. Just did an out lap, just checked everything was okay with the car, came in, waited till everybody came in the middle of the session, went out, boom, looking amazing, and then unfortunately just that little mistake took it away. Helmut Marko in the GP2 pit, having a word with the Arden boys. Hasn't always been the biggest fan of GP2, Helmut Marko. Put Red Bull drivers in the championship in the early years of GP2, the likes of Scott Speed, of course, and Sebastian Buemi, Michael Ammermuller, Adrian Zaug. But after they didn't fare too well, the championship of choice for Red Bull drivers became World Series. And from that point, all Red Bull drivers to be promoted to Formula One have been promoted from World Series by Renault. This year, though, in GP2, I don't think you can deny the importance that Formula One teams have placed on this championship. You have a Force India Junior team with Hilmer. You have Williams reserve driver Felipe Nasr with Carlin. You have Caterham with a junior team, of which one of their drivers, Alexander Rossi, is one of the reserve drivers for the Formula One team. You have Raffaele Marcello, part of the Ferrari Driver Academy. You have Stoffel Van Dorn, part of the McLaren Academy. GP2 is re-announcing itself very much as Formula One's feeder category this season. But what will it take to see a driver ultimately elevate himself back to Formula One from GP2? Because the champion for the last 2 years has not done so. Will it take a rookie to win the title? The first time that would happen on Pirelli tyres. Will it take a second-year driver, or will it take a driver to just obliterate his rivals, as we've not seen for some years? Either way, I think we've got potentially one of the most thrilling GP2 seasons for some time ahead of us. The quality of the field, the level of driving talent is better than I've seen in years. A couple of drivers with 3 years on their books, one with 4, one with 5. But the vast majority here are first or second year drivers. As we now ride with Alexander Rossi. And now the drivers start to leave the pit. Daly's out on track. Jeffries is out on track. Coletti, Harrianto. And this is the thing, you know. Look at this. 4 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, empty track. Now, everyone leaving at the same time. Half the field out, half the field in. Less than 10 minutes remain. ART seemingly back, having rediscovered the form that they had lost over the past season and a bit. Van Dorn up in P2. His teammate, though, Izawa, currently down in 25th place. The 29-year-old Japanese driver who has moved across to GP2 from Formula Nippon and Super GT. Won races in both championships last year. Certainly beloved of the Honda program. At 29, it would perhaps be flattering to call him a young driver. But as I've always said, when you're ready, you're ready. Back with Alexander Rossi, though, who has taken so much screen time during this session. And look at this. You see, he's coming to start his warm-up lap, and he will have ahead of him a huge stream of drivers. He needs to drop right back now. I mean, literally just, he might as well just lift and sit at the corner for the next 30 seconds. Oh, spinner. And that is Markelov, Artem Markelov in the Russian time car. He's got it going again, or has he stalled it? He's managed to get it going and then stalled it right on the racing line. And that, they're going to need to get rid of that fairly quickly, because with 7 minutes and 50 seconds of this session remaining, we can't afford to have these qualifying laps hindered. Red flag, though. And that, for the likes of Rossi, will be a disaster. For the guys who had literally just left the pits, it won't be a bad thing. They'll be able to go out and do just their out lap, and the tyres should be at a good point to push for a flying lap. For Rossi, though, who had done his out lap and was on his then warm-up lap, those tyres would have been at the optimum point to start a flying lap. As it is now, they could be past their bests when he ultimately tries to start that lap. Oh, and just from Markelov, it looks like a very simple case of he's taken the curb, he's kept full lock right on, and he's just juiced the rears with way too much lock on. Spun the car around, and there you go, and stalled it. So out he goes, and Markelov will start his first GP2 race from 26th and plumb last. And not the best way to start his GP2 career. Quite an easy mistake. Well, it's a simple thing to get wrong. Not an easy mistake to make. Not for an experienced driver like Markelov, certainly. A young man who finished second in German F3 last year, with a couple of wins and a whole heap of podiums to his name. But at just 19 years of age, he is relatively young in GP2 driving terms, but he is the same age as his teammate Mitch Evans. Both of them 19. Now, fear for Rossi, the best in those tyres may have gone, although he did improve, of course, on his second flyer. As soon as these red flags go in, hopefully we will get this session back underway, as some of the cars still circulate coming back into the pits. How much did Rossi save on those tyres? The P10 man. I'm not so worried about everybody else, because they were just on their out lap, so they shouldn't have put all that much through the tyres as of yet. What is fascinating, or what is thrilling, though, is that theoretically these guys should be able to now go out, do a fast out lap, putting lots of heat into the tyres, lots of lateral movement, and then go straight into a flying lap. With 7 minutes and 38 seconds on the clock remaining, that is what we want to see. We want to see everybody out there pushing for the quick time. The drivers line up in the pit lane, getting ready to go back out. Rossi, though, is at the end of the pit lane in neutral. They're going to fire him up, are they? Yeah, the team get ready to fire him up. And away goes Alexander Rossi. Will he go to his garage for a bit more fuel? Will he just stay with what he's got and maybe just go for a 3-lapper, out-lap, flyer for pole and an in-lap? Risk it on that. And he's telling these guys to get out of his way. He wants to get back to his box. Looks like Peak might not have much forward momentum. Rossi frustrated and annoyed. Ultimately, there's nothing you can do when those red flags come out. It is luck of the draw. And now the driver's back out on track. With dry ice falling out of Johnny Cecotto's side pods. And replay on board with Rossi wanting to get back to his team. And frustrated with the Hilmer in the way there. So almost every driver now out on track, going for pole as the time ticks down at the top of your screen. 6 3/4 minutes remain here under the lights in Bahrain to determine who will be the fast pole sitter of 2014. Who will take away the 4 points for pole? Daniel Abt currently is your fastest man on a 1:39.073. That is faster than these guys went in pre-season testing. The fastest lap in pre-season testing was set by Rio Haryanto, a 1:39.129. So we are quicker already than testing. Will we go quicker still? Under the lights, on board with Nasser, and look at this. You see, this is what I'm talking about. This outlap, fast outlap. Get the heat into the tyres because it's going to be the first flyer. The first flyer that is crucial for pole. No hanging about, no dawdling. Get on it, get heat in those tyres and wind it up and let it go. Well, the Dams boys aren't. Are they out of sequence though? Nasser does not appear to be weaving. Nasser could be on a flyer, but he's got traffic ahead. Riding on board with Nasser now. No, he's still weaving as well. Interesting. I would have thought that far through the cycle they would have been able to go straight for it. Clearly not. We are learning all the time with these new tyres. Of course, just the first weekend here in Bahrain. The tyres do deg about the same as the old ones did, but the construction has changed over the winter. The heat cycle, though, appears to be similar. Now, almost everybody is out on track now. The only driver not, of course, Artem Markelov, out of this session. A 1:41.172 is the best that he will manage today. 2.099, with it all to find. Very calm, very slow. So De Jong not going for it then. That's a very slow start to the lap for De Jong. Looking back though, that is Jolyon Palmer. No, that's Riquelme. That's Jolyon Palmer. Both should be on a flyer. Riquelme's had a 31.6 for Sector 1. That's brilliant. Jolyon Palmer has a 31.6 as well. The two Dams teammates identical through Sector 1. Nasser, though, with a 31.5. That is on a par with Daniel Abt. It's not quite as good, as he hasn't gone purple, but it is in the right ballpark. Van Dorn, 31.6 through Sector 1. Goes around De Jong. Jolyon Palmer. As we look for the times through Sector 2. It is Naza with the advantage at the moment with a 31.5 for Sector 1. Riquelme does a 42.6 personal best. Wow! Palmer 42.3 with Sector 2. That's purple, the best we've seen today. So Riquelme will be the first of the Dams boys across the line. Can he challenge Daniel Abt? 139.073. Riquelme over. It's a 139.081, so close. What about Palmer? Comes across now, yes, 138.865. Behind is Stoffel Van Dorn. If he can improve his time without being under investigation for track limits, that investigation would be null and void. Over the line for Van Dorn, yes, it's a 138.895. That is an improvement, puts him second. So Van Dorn moves up to second and nullifies that investigation. Over the line now for Evans, not enough, it's P5 for Mitch Evans. Behind now, coming across, Abt will be coming along soon, but his middle sector is nowhere near that of Palmer or Van Dorn. What about Stefano Colletti, though? Colletti's had a personal best Sector 1, a personal best Sector 2 as well. Through the final corner for Colletti. He needs an incredible final sector to get on terms with Palmer and Van Dorn. Down the straight and over the line for Colletti. It's not enough, it's sixth. So still Palmer from Van Dorn, 1 minute to play. A good first sector from Izawa on a 31.7. Also, what about this guy, Mitch Evans? A 31.7 for Sector 1. And that's Van Dorn ahead. Van Dorn gets out of the way. Cecotto has stopped in Sector 1 somewhere. Evans, though, pushing to get back on P1. As Leal goes 31.5. A 31.5 for Julian Leal through Sector 1 and a 31.6 for John Lancaster. They're the two fast-moving men on track at the moment. Evans, over 3/4 of a second down. I think it's all done for him. Riquelme comes into the pit, and I think it is all over for Mitch Evans. P7, the best I think he can hope for right now. Evans is coming in. Right, our focus now is on Leal and Lancaster. Leal through Sector 1 was a 31.5. Lancaster was a 31.6. And that is a spinner. That is De Jong in the car number 20 down at turn 1. That shouldn't affect our two guys on flying laps. Waiting for them to come through Sector 2 now. Julian Leal. And Julian Leal, middle sector, dreadful. 43.2. It's over for Leal, but it's still on for Lancaster. Is it? No. Slow through Sector 2 as well, about half a second off. I think that is pretty much, and it was traffic then for Leal. You see all those cars around him. Leal lost so much time through Sector 2, comes through, down the start, finish straight. There is Lancaster behind him. Leal over the line doesn't improve. What about Lancaster? Lancaster moves up to 11th, but it is Jolyon Palmer who is going to start this season with pole position. I don't think he knows it yet. Jolyon Palmer takes his second career GP2 pole position in his first race for Dams. And alongside him on the front row of the grid, wow, McLaren know how to pick their rookies, don't they? Magnussen going great guns in Formula 1. Stoffel Van Dorn will start from the front row of the grid for his first GP2 series race. Under investigation earlier in the session, but for a lap that he ultimately beat later on with that 38.895 to put in P2, just 0.030 off Palmer. And what about row 2? Daniel Abt, vindication of the move over the winter from ART to Hilmer. Stefan Riquelme makes it 4th. It's a great day for Dams. Naza trying to get through and out of the way. That is Cecotto. And Johnny Cecotto, it seems, making as many friends as he did last year. And Naza, that's a bit naughty of Naza to run wide like that. Clearly making his dissatisfaction known, but there's your man, there's your pole sitter, Jolyon Palmer. just wondering where he needs to go and get himself weighed.
Here it comes.
No bravado, no massive celebrations, taking it all very easily in his stride. So a move over the winter from Carlin to Dams, and Jolyon Palmer immediately rewarded with P1 and pole position. A shake of the head from Connor Daly behind. He's not happy, qualifying down in P18 within a second of pole, but still not where he wanted to be on his first weekend in GP2. Mitch Evans looking not that impressed behind either. Evans P7, and a very disrupted end to the session, ultimately meaning that the guys didn't quite get the runs they all would have wished for. But you got to make the most of it, and make the most of it Jolyon Palmer did. Rose above the disruption of the session to take pole position with a 138.865 with Van Dorn. Well, what a great first qualifying session for the Belgian. 0.030 off Jolyon Palmer. Daniel out, a great run for the German to go P3. Riquelme in P4. Harrianto in the Caterham 5th, with Coletti 6th for Racing Engineering. Then it's Evans 7th, Nazar 8th, Marcello 9th, and Peak in Campos Racing's return to GP2 in 10th. Then Lancaster and Leal, Cecotto and Negrão, Rossi 15th, Sato, Binder and Daly, Regalia, Berton, Trummer and De Jong, Izawa 23rd, Quaife, Hobbs 24th. In 25th, it is Jeffries, and in 26th, it is Markelov. So that's that. First qualifying session of the season, first pole and first 4 points to Jolyon Palmer. That man, though, has made an immediate mark. Stoffel Van Dorn will start on the front row of the grid for his first GP2 Series race. And after testing, everyone was saying, watch this man, his long run pace is brilliant. Jolyon Palmer is a race winner, we know that, but he won his races last year on Prime. That strategy is no longer available. You must use both compounds in tomorrow's race, as we see an investigation between Nazar and Cecotto for that thing down at the final corner between them. But it will be both compounds in use for tomorrow's race. It is a new strategic battle for GP2 tomorrow for the race. Can Palmer get on top of the tyres, and what can this wonderful rookie Stoffel Van Dorn do from the first row of the grid? What a great first qualifying session, what a fabulous race we have in store for us tomorrow in the 10th season of GP2. For now, though, from us, under the lights here at the Bahrain International Circuit, it's a very warm goodbye.
Watch all 6 Sky Sports channels on your mobile and online.